Hi, my name is Brian Marks, and I'm here to talk to you today about adding domains to Office 365. Um, if you've ever had signed up for an Office 365 account, you notice that the first thing you'll get is a domain name that says like company.onmicrosoft.com. In itself, this domain is not extremely useful, especially if you own your own domain and you'd like to overlay it on top of Office 365. Having the domain in Office 365 allows you to do a lot of extra things, like having your own Skype for Business address with your domain and having your own email address in Exchange Online in your domain. And you can host SharePoint with your domain name. So there's a lot of advantages to actually bringing your domain into Office 365, and it actually makes Office 365 that much more useful. So today we're going to talk about how easy it is to add your domain, and then we're going to add a user. And we'll change the DNS settings a little bit so that Office 365 validates that you own the domain, and then we'll go ahead and we'll delete the domain and delete the Office 365, or sorry, the DNS record, just to show you how easy it is to also if you remove your domain from Office 365 if you want to. So we're going to start. So I've logged into Office 365 already, and we're going to start in the domain section. Once it loads. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a domain to Office 365. And as soon as you click add a domain, you're going to bring up the domain wizard. And it basically walks you through every step that you need to do. So here's a little explanation of what you need to do. We're going to go ahead and click get started. And the first thing it wants to do is it wants to know what domain we're going to add. So I have my own domain that I'm going to add here. It's also the name of my blog, so which is 365 Unity. You also have the option to buy one here. So going to click next. So it wants to get information of Office 365 or 365 Unity. Basically what this wizard is now doing is it needs to know that I actually own the domain. It knows that it's a GoDaddy domain, but I want to get the TXT record because I want to show you how they identify it through DNS records. So I clicked on that and it provided me with a DNS record that is expecting from GoDaddy. So I'm going to copy the TXT value. I'm going to go over to my domain. And in my domain zone file, I'm going to add the TXT record. So I'm going to click on add a record here. And then wants to know what type of record. So we know that's a TXT record. So we're going to just set all hosts. We're going to paste in the tag that Microsoft is expecting. And then we're going to click finish. And we're going to click save. So it appears that it's saved. If I scroll down to my TXT records, we'll notice that it was added here. So perfect. Now we can go back to the Office 365 and we can say, okay, I've added the record. Office 365 is then going to check the domain and check its DNS record and make sure that record exists. Basically, the association is that if you own the domain, you should have the ability to add this TXT record, which I did. So they've said that we verified that you have access to your domain. We're going to click next. So it's going to take us down to step 2 where we can add users. So we can add Office 365. If you have any users living in Office 365, it's going to want to convert those. We're going to just skip this step. And I could add a new user. So I'm going to add a user here. I'm going to add myself. Brian at Office 365 or 365unity.com. And then I'm going to click add these users. And if I want to add more than one user, I can click add row here. So it's going to go and add the user. And it's telling me that one user was added successfully. Perfect. So we're going to click next here. And now it wants us to update our DNS records. So it's going to determine what DNS records you need. I'm going to click next. So it's going to ask us if they want us to set it up. I'm going to say no. I have my own website and I manage my own DNS records. So we're going to click next here. So basically it gives us a bunch of options here, and these options are so that we can set up DNS records for Skype for Business. Skype for Business uses a lot of service records for you to be able to log in from a rich client, or for you to have a meeting, or for you to be able to federate with other partners. So it's going to ask us to set up these DNS records on our DNS server. And then we have Exchange. So basically we do things like set up the MX record, set up the SR, it's probably the SPF record. And yeah, so we do that for Exchange. So I'm just going to uncheck all of these. I don't want to do these right now, but we will cover these in another video session. So we're going to click Next. Great, so it basically tells me now we're all set up. You could rate the Office 365 setup if you'd like. I'm just going to click Finish. And now you can see on my 365 Unity domain, the setup is complete and no action is required. If I go up to Users and go to Active Users, I should be able to see my Office 365 user and the fact that he lives in the cloud. Keep an eye on the status and in the cloud. This will become more important for when we start doing things like federating. So just keep that in mind. So now we're going to go ahead and delete the domain. So the first thing we're going to do, and I want to show you, you cannot delete a domain from Office 365 if you have existing users. Office 365 will not let you. So let's say I wanted to try and delete this. Go to Remove Domain. Basically asking me if I'm sure. And it gives me a warning. You cannot remove the domain if associated with any mail addresses, user accounts, or distribution groups. And even if I try to click yes, it's going to tell me that one or more accounts are using Office 365. So I can close this, and I can go into users, and I can select the user that I want, and I can go and delete them. It's telling me the user is deleted successfully. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to go back down to domains, and I can go into here and I can go to remove domain and click yes. So it's going to go ahead and remove the domain. And I could also go into my DNS record and I could remove that TXT record. So right here. And save. So now I've removed all the traces of Office 365. So if you've made a mistake and you have multiple domains and you didn't want to add that domain to Office 365, it's also easy to remove it from Office 365. I hope you found these tips useful. On the next few sessions, I'd like to build on top of this. Because Office 365, I do like to think it's a lot like Lego, where we can start by adding our domain, and then we could do things like we could start synchronizing our Active Directory accounts if we have a domain controller on premise to Office 365. We could do things like use hybrid Exchange and hybrid Skype for Business. So we can have users living on premise and some users in Office 365. And based on DNS records, it knows the system knows where to route them, where they live, and communication in between the two. And then you could do things like add ADFS, and then you can change the authorization. Instead of authorizing on Office 365, you can authorize everything on your Active Directory, and then you have something called single sign-on. So again, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you found this useful, and I look forward to presenting more for you. Thank you and have a great day.